And the reason we put it together is because we have a lot of neighbors who have moved in. Now understand, this is our 53rd year. And so all of our neighbors have moved in after we've been there. And a lot of them don't even know what we do. All they hear is, oh. And what we wanted to do is get them to come see us. And the only way we could get them to come see us is to get their kids to come. And so by having a reading program, their children come, and guess what? If they do a good job of reading, we give a free ticket to one of the parents. So now if one parent's coming, and sad to say, a lot of kids only have one parent today, but the other parent buys a ticket and comes. So that's the objective of the reading program. That was really basically not why it started. I had all 8 of our grandkids at Rooney Ranch Elementary when it first opened up. And they were looking for a reading program, and that's how it started. I bet you didn't know that our operation is really basically all family operated. We have about 20-some full-time employees. Lorraine and I are fortunate to have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. They all work for us. Their spouses work for us, and all 8 of the grandkids work for us. So it's at one place or another. It's kind of fun to have them involved. It's also challenging. Trust me, I'm not going to go any farther than that. You probably also didn't know that the property that we sit on is property that really and truthfully the county commissioners found for us. We were actually going to build this racetrack in Arvada. And my uncle had a dairy farm way back in the 50s, and right up the road from Jolly Rancher Candy. And anyway, when they started to build it, the people didn't want it there, and so the county commissioners found it. And the property that we are sitting on was owned originally by Margaret Morrison, the Cox family, and the Pike family. Those names ring a bell with some of you, especially if you're part of the valley. In 1986, the highway came in, and a lot of you probably don't know I almost lost the whole thing. I got involved in, I had a permanent loan to take my construction loan away, and the highway came through. It took several acres of the racetrack, and so I had a condemnation case. We won that condemnation case, and we got a certain amount of money. As a family, we decided to put the money back into the business rather than pay taxes, because if you invested it, you didn't have paying taxes on that money. And so we used that money. We did a lot of work. We anticipated moving about 2 million yards of dirt, but we ended up moving about 3.5 million yards of dirt. And ironically, I moved all of that dirt on a $15 ambient dust permit. And you say, how could you do that? Because you could never do that today. They were building the highway right in front of me, and they thought I was building the highway. Be honest with you, I didn't think of it that way when we were doing it, but when they dedicated the bridge on on Morrison Road, we were up there moving dirt and had tractors going up and down the side of the mountain, and they grid tagged us that afternoon. So it was an interesting experience. I guess, I put it this way. I think that probably during that period of time in my life, I realized, and I don't mind sharing this with you because I think it will help you to remember and remind you of me. We may not all believe the same, and that's okay. But we're right in the Easter season here right now, and so I just got to share this with you. At that time, that experience that I went through of trying to come out of a financial bind, having to deal with people you owe money to, and not knowing how to pay them, and to have to go to them face to face and tell them you just didn't happen. And I will just give you a little side note. The bank I was dealing with was the old Jefferson Bank and Trust. Remember that, on the corner of Wadsworth and Colfax. And I will never forget the day they could not loan me all the money I needed because they didn't have enough lending limit. And so I tried to find somebody to loan me a second, and I could not find anything. Well, I did. I found Jimmy Loprino was Loprino Cheese would loan me the money out of their employees fund, their 401k money. At that time, 14.5%. And actually, lending money, excuse me, I'll take that back, it was 24%. Lending money was at about 12.5% at that time. But believe this or not, when I realized that it was not my business, but it was God's, and I turned it all over to Him and made it to where He was totally in charge and I was just kind of the kid that was walking along, I actually was able to develop a Jefferson Bank and Trust took second position. You tell me where you would ever find a bank that would loan you about $1.8 million and take second position to another bank at $800,000. But that's what happened. And I still, to this day, can remember the day I went to the Boy Scout breakfast, and I was sitting next to the gentleman that was the president of the bank at that time, and he leaned over and he said, "We've decided to take second position." Folks, I'm telling you, I had to get up out of that room and leave because I couldn't control myself. And so with all of that said, you know, you talked about bathrooms. I gotta tell you, I ran my place for 53 years and all I have is portalets. But you know what? We've learned all kinds of ways to make portalets clean. And I have a granddaughter who will not use a portalet. Now don't misunderstand. We have a tower and we have special VIP guest places that we have real running water and take care of the guests that way. But in most 90% of the facility is portalets. But you know, I would rather go into a clean portalet than a dirty bathroom.
Amen.
And so I've learned that over the years.
Say, John, at Dinosaur Ridge we call them SSTs, sweet smelling toilets.
Yeah, that's really true. You also probably are not aware that we actually have about 400 part-time employees, and during the summer. So that gives you a little bit of maybe some things that you did not know about us. I will tell you one little story of innovativeness that has really become a real blessing for us. In 2000, I had this crazy idea that I would like, actually it was 1999, I had this idea I'd like to have some cars that people could drive, because 90% of the people that have ever talked about Vandermeer Speedway, they've never experienced it. They don't know what I'm talking about. So I want you to have a chance to drive a car. So I called Chevrolet. I just picked up the phone and I called and I got a hold of a fellow by the name of Settlemeyer, and I told him what this crazy idea I had. And you know, that guy sent me 8 cars. And, so I had 8 Camaros, and we ran them for a year, and that year he wanted them back, but he said, "I'm going to send you 8 more that are all identical. You just pick the colors." And apparently it struck the right note with the people back there. And he let me have them for 2 years. And after the 2 years was up, they wanted them back, and I told them they couldn't have them. And I ended up buying them, and we have used those cars on many occasions. Right now I have 8 brand new Dodge Challengers with Hemi engines in them. And so I still got the Camaros and I got the Dodges. Now, let me tell you the story. What I do with those cars is if you're a sponsor and you get involved with us, we package it so that you might be able to have a day at the racetrack where you can have some fun or with your employees. Okay? Like fundraisers is a perfect example. And that's the story I want to tell you about. We put a deal together with our bank where we've been with Guarantee Bank and Trust for a long time, and Brett and I got to talking about it, and I said, you know, you guys need a sponsorship here at the racetrack. And I'm paying you a lot of money on notes, and you ought to be spending some money. So anyway, we talked it all through. They put together this package, and part of the package is that they had 2 challenge races in their sponsorship package. So he put together a deal where they brought in some of the bank's best customers from around the area and had a party last year, 2 of them. And out of that, a guy by the name of Shane Brown out of Fort Collins, Colorado, was invited. Now Shane, I don't even know what Shane does. I've got his card. I think he could be a financial guy or something, like maybe even in real estate. But anyway, he's out of Fort Collins. And he belongs to a group called the 2030 Club. Anybody ever heard of the 2030 Club? Have you? All right. Well, I never knew what it was. But it's 20 and the 30-year-old guys and women who belong to this club that always get tapped for money for everything that comes along that people need money to finance. And they decided we're going to put our own events on so we have enough money that when people need money, we can donate properly. And they started off, and it's just a very brief story, but they did a suitcase party. And you went to an airport up there with a suitcase, packed, ready to go, not knowing where you're going to go. And they have a drawing, and if you win, they put you on the airplane right then, and you're gone for 5 or 6 or 7 days, and I guess it's really a blast. And they thought they would have 350 show up. Cost $250 to come to this. They had 780 people show up. Well, needless to say, they made some serious